Okay, Tim.
Hey.
Tim just had a roundtable reading of this play that started at 11 a.m. this morning and ended around 4 p.m.
Yeah.
This is a play that is so directly on the subject of tyranny. And now I've had a chance over the course of the past couple of weeks to read some of your older work, and this is a subject you return to and have returned to a lot. You've written a lot about the military. You've written a lot about legacies of war. You've written a lot about the FBI. You've written about Russia and Chechnya. And, right now, you're writing a giant, massive play about Oedipus without Oedipus. But I'd love to know. I'd love to find out where the seed of this play came from and the decision to tell it not from the lens of Oedipus, but instead through the lens of this young woman.
Yeah. So, where do I begin with that? Because this play began with another play. It actually began with an adaptation of the Bacchae. And I'm from St. Louis, I'm from the middle of the country. Most of my plays are set there, and I'm really interested in reframing a lot of the narratives that are around, middle of the country stories. Like a lot of the plays I see are set on either one coast or the other, and there's all these ideas about the middle of the country that are usually wrong and usually make me angry, even when they're right. It's like, but you're not from there, so fuck you. But one of the things that I'm really interested in is how do you take myth and transpose that to an American setting? So how do you take these stories that we have been telling these human beings for millennia and reset those into landscapes that are familiar somehow? So in researching this Bacchae play, I got really curious about the setting. It's in Thebes, and Thebes clearly has this importance in Greek history. And so, what is that all about? And you realize how many of these major stories are set in Thebes, from the Bacchae, which is near the founding of the city, down through the Oedipus stories. And so I ended up writing this play set in Thebes, Illinois, which is a real town on the Mississippi River. Current population is maybe 200 people. It used to be a very bustling city. It was a major crossing from the Mississippi River. And basically, once they built a rail bridge across the river, all the commerce in that town just dried up. There was no reason for trains to stop. And so I got really just this idea of history and of how things get passed down from generation to generation. And that play turned into Bacchae with Antigone as a subplot. And also it is America, but it is as if the dominant religion is a polytheistic, like a contemporary version of a polytheistic Greek-based, Olympian gods religion. I ended up creating all of this history and all of this culture and religion, a whole version of a religion. And that play called Down the Face of God is about basically this Dionysus character. They're trying to force this persona being a god onto him, and he doesn't want it. He's trying to reject it. But anyhow, so I ended up writing this whole thing. I was like, wow, I'm really interested in this. I've created this whole world. I've created this story and this idea of generations and how these stories are passed down. And so I was like, well, I want to do a full Oedipus cycle. Because I got this world, why not use it some more? And so I sat down to do. I was like, I'm going to do the Oedipus one. I'm going to do Oedipus next because that's the easiest. But what I started to, I actually wrote a few scenes in this play where Oedipus was in the play, and they were not bad scenes. But suddenly I was like, I don't have anything to add. Oedipus has been adapted so many times, usually by white guys, and I had nothing to add to the story. So I was like, how do I turn that on its ear? And I was also around the time that I was thinking about this play, I was also I had first met Greg Scala, who was an actor and the artistic director of the African Company, and he was there being like, disability, man, we gotta talk about disability. You're one of us, and you're a writer. Come on, work with me. It's okay. So thinking about that, and he pointed out, I never even thought about myself that Oedipus is one of the few characters written to be actually with a disability. It doesn't get talked about a lot. that's how his name actually translates. It's lame foot. And so I was like, well, I decided then to turn the play, turn it around basically, and instead of focusing on this this guy in charge and his, all of his woes, I wanted to look at it in terms of like how his inability to fix the situation affects the other people in town. And so the new central character is in particular this young disabled woman who has been shunned by the town because the religion has told us that like her disability is a result of the fact that she rejected the gods like when she was in the womb. And so she is this outsider, and she has been affected by policies that he's made and that the people under him have gone along with. And then it ended up just kind of growing and growing. It's like I got a relation to her story, but then I got really interested in how it was affecting all these other people around her as well. So we actually get two different levels. We get her, that's one of the lowest of in terms of the classes. She's one of the lowest class, and so we have her and her sister. But then we also let's look at it from the upper class version as well, which is it's a character based on Jocasta, and a Karin character who I've turned into a woman as well. So we have these parallel sister tracks. And so that's where it came from. And once I got going, it just became this really just fun world to explore. And and it's a huge thing with multiple storyline.
This is maybe the clearest articulation of the question I was asking before about agency and responsibility. Like, you've written a play in which a single person is tasked, basically takes on the task of saving this town from a tyrannical curse. And I told Tim I was going to do this. I asked the writers in advance of the panel if they had other plays that they thought might be useful context for reading. And Tim sent me an older play that, as I read it, just felt like this question maybe was a thematic precursor to the idea of a single person going to save a task with saving a town from a tyrannical curse. And I'm just going to read this. There's two sections of this play called "We Declare You Terrorists," and they're and I don't want to do too much context. I think these lines might provide all we need. But this is page 53, and the writer, a character named the writer, says, "It doesn't make any difference though. Communism didn't fall because of the plays that were written and banned, and it didn't fall because of the music we couldn't listen to. And Russia today doesn't want to see a play about how bad things are here or in Chechnya." And the character, he's the political activist who he's talking to, says, "Who cares what they want? Show them what they want to see." And at the end of the play, the writer says, after grappling with this question of agency and responsibility, the value of art, says, "I will. There are lots of ways, and everyone I meet, I will write it all down, share it with anyone who will listen, and anyone who won't, I'll find a way to make them listen. They might kill me to shut me up, but it will only make the world listen closer." To which his friend says, "You are stupid and full of hope." And the writer says, "I have to be." And then the play ends. That's the end of the play. And so my question to him is, what led to that being such an emphatic statement, like kind of a mission statement of purpose of the role of the artist in society, and what did writing that, like, how did that influence what came next?
So that play is about the Moscow theater siege in 2002, when 40 Chechens took this theater and something like 800 hostages in a theater, like right at the top of Act 2. And I just remember being just absolutely riveted by the whole thing, because it was like, even though it was in Moscow, and it was like, wow, this is like somehow really directly connected. I mean, there's something about being, when you work in theater, you just feel an immediate connection with other theater makers, I think. So, and theater goers, for that matter. And so anyway, like there was something about the whole crazy thing that was just very interesting to me. And so I was always for a long time I was interested in writing something about that. And actually, the very first pass on it was basically just a dramatization of the 57 hours of the siege, and it was terrible. I was it was like there was no, it just felt too didactic. I was trying to say something, I didn't really know what I was trying to say. But at some point after this happened, there was a documentary made about the siege, and one of the hostages was the guy who wrote the music that was being performed. He was there the entire time, and he ended up, so in case you don't remember or didn't know, basically about half of these Chechens were women who had lost people in the war who were close to them, and they were scattered among all the hostages with bombs strapped to their bodies, so that if Russian special forces came in, they would just the idea was they would just instantly blow themselves up and everyone would die. And this writer was next to one of these women. And so he actually struck up this conversation with the original intention being to, he thought, well, maybe I can stop her from setting off her bomb if I can get close to her. But what ended up happening was, he really seemed to have formed a connection with this woman. And towards the end of the siege, when everyone felt like something was coming, like the Russians were coming and they were all going to die, she actually wrote the Shahada on a piece of paper and handed it to him, because she kept, with the idea of saying, say this before you die and you will go to heaven. So somehow they had made some kind of connection, and this is my interpretation of it, that she actually was cared about his soul, she didn't just want him to die and go to hell or whatever. And this guy had written, I've seen clips of this musical, and it looks god awful. They were he and his partner were actually literally trying to write a Russian version of Loneliness. And it's based on this Russian novel that apparently every Russian has read, but it sounds really boring. We're not talking War and Peace here, we're talking trash. But this guy wrote this trash musical that was taken hostage, and people died. I'm not going to go into all the details of that, but people died. And seeing him talk about that, I was like, well, there was something in his eyes. It felt like he had gone through a major change, and that became my in to how to write that story. It's like how do you go through something like that, and then not change, not write something else, and not try and change the conversation. And then the other big inspiration for the play was the journalist Anna Politkovskaya, who was murdered in her hotel room for being one of the only people really reporting what's going on in Chechnya. And so that was another big inspiration, this idea that you can kill that person, but then somehow someone else would pick up that story and you try. It's Chechnya never got better; it got much worse. It's a situation like that. So and yeah, to end with I'm stupid. Yeah, I have the line.
Stupid and full of hope.
I'm stupid and full of hope. And he says I have to be out.